Hello everybody and welcome to Cabaret Secrets. This is Gary Williams and this week's edition is probably, I think, one of the most useful that we've had so far, because today I'm going to be talking to one of the most successful booking agents, particularly as far as cruise ships are concerned in the UK today. He's Gary Parks. He's sitting right opposite me now. Hi Gary, welcome to Cabaret Secrets.
Thanks, Gary. It's so nice to be here with you.
Tell, for those people that have not heard of you before, the kind of work that you do and where you put most of your the people that you represent.
Our two main sections of the business is supplying cabaret entertainers and musicians to the cruise business, which I've been involved with over 30 years. We deal with every cruise line in the world. And we also have many hotels and cabaret venues we deal with in London.
This is where you book the music, the pianists and the bands and so on.
Yeah, the pianists, the bands, the solo guitarists, the string quartets. As part of the musicians go, some of the house musicians, the jazz trios, the duos, and the cabaret entertainers, which can be anything from vocalists to magicians to instrumentalists, violinists, variety pianists, classical pianists.
How does it work? Is it a matter of you contacting a cruise line saying, here's this great act, and you try and sell them, and you say, well, where can we put this person? Or is it the cruise lines, do they call you up and say, okay, we want this guy and we want this guy? Or do they ever say to you, can you suggest somebody for this space?
Yes,
or do they say...
That's mainly... well, some of the cruise lines, we have an avails list we send out every Monday to the cruise line, although...
This is all the artists that you represent, and you send a big list of this is when there are who's available and when.
Yes, but also just recently it's up to date on a daily basis, so the cruise lines can actually go into our link, our web link, and find out who's available. Some of the cruise lines do it, and it's fabulous, and some of the other cruise liners don't do it, and they would just send an email to probably me and maybe 3 or 4 of the other main agents and say, who do you have available for X? We want a comedian, or we don't want a pianist, we don't want a vocalist, we don't want a violinist, who else do you have?
And this can be because they've already got one of those booked for the same leg of the cruise.
Yes. So then it's, we're on it straight away. Even with the States, my phone goes off at 2 a.m, so I have a BlackBerry, so the emails come straight away. So we have a quick look, and then we send the suggestions, and then...
And the lines just look at all the suggestions and see what they fancy.
Come back and they say, yes, this is exactly what... Or, on other cases, if they want an act for a season, they will just say, is X available for 4 or 5 month season, and it works like that.
So you're getting sent, I would imagine, tons of stuff all the time from people, potential acts or acts that are existing already that are trying to find work, particularly on cruise ships.
We probably get round about 300 emails a week from people that have either found me from websites, or they've called the hotels, or they've called the cruise liners, or they know somebody who already works for us, or the production singers in a production show on a cruise line. And and then they either call or email. We prefer everything to be done by email, or else we'd never get any work with the lines being clogged up.
And do people still send DVDs and brochures and other things through snail mail?
Not as many as they used to, because we discourage it, and we basically prefer everything by electronic email, press kit, or website. That is even better if they have their own website with a little show reel on. And
when you say a press kit, what do you mean? An electronic press kit?
Yes, electronic. So basically, an email will come through with a CV, bio, very up-to-date photograph pictures, and either some YouTube links of their show, which I sometimes know is difficult, because especially for the new people who want to get on cruise ships, we need to see some kind of a show reel, and if they haven't been on a cruise ship to make this show reel, it can be difficult. But yes, I mean...
so this is the contents of what's an electronic press kit, an EPK, is what you've just described, a biography, photographs, set lists.
And preferably some kind of video promotion. If it's not of the cabaret show, maybe they've been in a show in the West End, or we've got some clips, or they've been on the X Factor, or they've been on Britain's Got Talent, or Penn and Teller, which are usually great because we know they're professionally recorded. So that really helps.
So even if they haven't got a decent recording of them doing their act that they're trying to sell to you, if they've got something which just looks good of them doing something, yes, that can be enough.
Yeah, it helps. That would help. It would certainly help. We still do get acts that do send brochures and DVDs through the post, but we do prefer it the other way. Funny enough, I just had a fabulous brochure of a cruise director who wants to now be a headline cabaret singer, and he's obviously spent a lot of money on this brochure, and it really is fabulous, which would have been okay 5 or 6 years ago, but now there's no point, because if we send it off to the cruise lines, everybody's so busy, it will just get piled up. Just like it does in my office, In fact, we had a clear out last month, and we threw 12 big full bin liners out of all promo material, because it's things that have been in there since 2003, 2004, and it's just not appropriate anymore.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it, when you think of the money that these acts are spending and the time.
Yeah, it was strange to go through it. In fact, we found through a few of the demos, unfortunately, people are no longer with us, But yeah. But then we'd still get the person that calls and says, can I send you a cassette? Which
that's not a good start.
Yeah, we don't have a cassette, or we don't have video machines anymore. So,
in a sense, it's a nice way that it's developed, because I know when I first started, I was spending thousands on getting DVDs made, and the nice covers and brochures to go with them in full colour, getting all these things run off, and of course then your act changes a year later, or you get some new material, so you get them all done again, and it costs a lot of money to post these things. I remember the first brochure that I did and it was a cassette tape that went with it. I posted 1,000 of them out, all the postage, So these days it is a lot easier. But I think some people listening might think, well, I know the agents are getting bombarded with emails. If I send a lovely glossy brochure as well, it's not going to do me any harm. And since they're so keen to work, some of them, they might be happy to spend the money. But really, you think it's a waste of time?
I think it's a waste of time. I really think it is a waste of time these days. You do get the odd corporate client or private individual who's having a party, maybe at the Savoy or the Dorchester where we're in house at, who would still like to see a brochure in the hand. But generally, certainly not with the cruise industry. Everything is done by email, and I recommend everybody just puts this demo even on their own website or on an unlisted YouTube, because some of the cruise lines, especially in the States, they don't have software that can allow some of these more intricate.
So you don't want people to send an actual video file in an email because it's big and they might not be able to read the particular format.
Exactly.
YouTube is worldwide. Everybody knows what it is. Yeah. Everybody can read it from any computer. Because I suppose that's the thing with the brochure. If someone sends you a fancy brochure, you might be impressed, but you're not going to spend the postage to send that to the States to a booker where it's probably going to get lost. It's just easier to send an email with a YouTube link.
Yeah, we've done it over the years. We've sent packages, FedEx packages and videos and DVDs over, so if it is a great brochure, it's all about presentation. If it's a brochure, it's got to look fabulous. It really has. But these days, no, unfortunately, it's moved on. It's, everything is done this way. It's easier. They haven't got time. The bookers, they haven't got time. They're so overstretched these days. It's just for easier them to click on the email. And
so since you're getting sent so many things, presumably when somebody sends you an email, you want a bit of introductory text, but presumably it needs to be short and to the point. Yeah. You want a short introductory paragraph saying, this is me, this is who I am, this is how I found you, please find attached my biog, my set list, this is the kind of experience that I've had, here's my YouTube link, and here's a photograph.
Yeah, and this is what I've done. But also I do check things out. I recently had some promo that was sent to me about 12 months ago, which looked very interesting and very good promo, and when I actually listened to the people concerned, I thought this is not right. So I checked some references out, and it was all false, basically. That exaggerated exactly what they'd done, and so we do check references. We do know a lot of people. We've been doing it for a long time. We know a lot of people in the business. The cruising business is so small. Very, very small world, really. All the bookers know each other. They all share information. So
I mean, I would have imagined that to be quite a lot of rivalry between agents, but it's not so much. I mean, if you get sent some stuff and it rings a bell, you can ring another agent up and say...
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, I talk to most of the agents, So, yes. So, I had somebody to come to see me last week who, he looked fabulous. He was a comedy magician, but after talking to him for 30 minutes, all these other agents kept coming out of the woodwork. So it rings a bell. Why does he want to come to me? Why is he not being happy with A, B, or C, or D? So after making a few telephone calls, I realised why, which obviously...
Yeah, there's a story there. Yeah, there's a story.
So it's a very, very small business.
Do you find that there are artists who aren't perhaps getting as much work as they deserve, or they're not on the money they think they deserve, and that really the agent that they've got is doing no better than or no worse than any other agent would be, but they think they should be on more, so they just keep switching agents because they're always thinking, I deserve more money, I deserve more work. Exactly. But actually no one can they're getting all that the industry's got to offer them at that time.
Exactly. And it has been this last 3 or 4 years with the recession and the financial crisis. Cruise lines have tightened up. They're not having as many guest entertainers, and certainly not having as many vocalists, because they're using the production singers on board to do the cabarets. So when I usually get an email from an established artist wanting to come over to me, I'm pretty honest with them. So I can sometimes say, yeah, we can do better for you, or I would stick where you are, because I know this agent and they're a good agent. They're very good, they're very well respected, and I think you should stay with them.
So presumably when you're being sent all these hundreds of emails, as long as it's all the stuff looks good, what you're really looking out for is what's going to fill the demand for you now. And you're saying right now there's less demand for singers. Is that singers of all kinds, or of one particular genre? How has that sort of singing market on cruise ship changed over the years? Yeah,
the singing, I mean, it's all about presentation. So if you get a great, looking male or female singer with plenty of energy and could be a little bit versatile, like we've just took another swing singer on a couple of weeks ago who plays saxophone. So that's a little string to his bow, it makes him different from the many, many swing singers that call us now for representation.
So people need to have what you'd call a USP, a unique sales point, something they stand out from the crowd, a gimmick. You've got to get a gimmick.
You've got to have a gimmick. From Gypsy, it's the same. It's the same old. If you can speak in several languages, that helps now, because some of the cruises, have international guests from Europe, Spanish, Italian, French. So that would help. Basically.
So it's a bit more tough for singers than it used to be. Yeah. But are there particular styles of singing where it's really hard now compared to, or is it just tough all round?
I think it's tough all round, but for our singers, we're still doing well with some of the singers. We've just managed to get one of our male singers completely booked up, for the next 10 months, solid bookings, but he does play a little bit of guitar, he does a bit of popular music, he does a little bit of opera, so he's very, very versatile. And he's took the position of moving over to base himself in Thailand, him and his wife in Thailand, so, he can pick all these crews up that are currently sailing in the area, Australia, Asia, and all around that region.
So it's quite a big deal. So he's relocated himself and his wife over to Thailand, And presumably the cruise liners like this because they're not having to fly people from the United Kingdom.
That's right. So they just fly him in and out of Thailand, and he's flying to Hong Kong and Singapore and to Australia. So it's great, and it's worked because he's, I know this is not for everybody. And then, and he did this last year, and it was the same last year. This year, because there's more cruises around Australia, he's actually staying longer. He's staying through till the end of July. So it's fantastic for him,
I have friends that are very good, successful performers in West End shows, not as solo cabaret acts, but they've got their own act. And what happens is, they come out of a show and they're auditioning, but nothing's happening, and they start thinking, oh, God, when am I going to be working again? They're running out of money. And they'll talk to me and say, well, that sounds nice, going off to the Caribbean for a week and earning some money and doing your own show. I fancy a bit of that. Does that ever work for those kind of people that just want to dip into it and just do the odd one, and I suppose treat them as almost like little vacations?
Difficult. It's difficult, and we would always consider them, but to be quite honest, I'd rather look after the people who are, and this is all the other agents think like this as well, that's going to be regular rather than just a week here and a week there, because you've just got to get some continuity. The problem is it's a difficult one with all the West End singers, because I totally understand they are fabulous on the West End. It doesn't mean a thing really on the ships, We do have West End people that work for us, and how many people on the ship would actually know where they are? I mean, it's okay saying they've been the lead in Les Mis or they've been the lead in Cats, but it's quite.
It's a nice credit to have, but at the end of the day, it's not going to. It's not going to. They still have to deliver a great show.
Exactly, they still have to deliver a great show, and then the problem is, we take these people on, and then they say, "Oh, we can't do this cruise because I've got an audition for blah blah blah, or I've been offered this small part, or I've been offered a fringe in this, so I'm going to have to cancel them." And then sooner or later, the cruise lines get really upset, of course, because
they're wasting their time.
We've got all these bookings in, and I say to the artists, these West End artists, what happens if they cancelled on you? If they booked you for these cruises and then they cancelled you on 2 or 3 weeks before, you're going to be pretty upset. If you want to go back in the West End or you want to go back in a show, don't take the booking. Just don't take them, and then just leave that blank, and then you're not upsetting anybody. We can let the cruise liners company, oh no, sorry, they've gone back into Les Mis, they've gone to in this show, and then you're not upsetting anybody. Everybody knows where they stand, but they do get very upset when you start cancelling cruises.
So it's really, you obviously you want people with a long-term commitment to this as a sort of a career in itself.
Yes, yeah, it helps. It really helps.
And you're finding the acts which are getting booked up in advance, the key thing is versatility.
Versatility. When we book acts, we try to see where they are getting off in a port, and then we look we have a website where we see where all the ships are in on that particular day, and then we will approach a cruise line and say, hey, Mr. Joe Bloggs is getting off in Buenos Aires tomorrow. Your ship's there the day after, why don't you pick him up and you'll save the air flight? It's all about saving costs these days. If they can save on a flight, or if they can do a tranship, it'll work. I mean, you've got to have the quality, but that also helps if they're already in the area.
And the language thing is important, you say?
Yeah, I mean, if they can speak several languages, that's great. Spanish, Portuguese, German. Great. There's a market there in Germany as well. So if we've got artists that can also speak and sing in German, cruising is especially on Cunard, it's very popular in Germany. There's a big market in Hamburg. Do
you think the standard of acts has got better or worse over the years?
I think they have got better. But it's moved. It's different. What had worked 10 or 15 years ago doesn't work now. It's a changing market. Cruise lines they're attracting younger passengers, so they want to see something quite contemporary.
And do you find that there are acts who might be great on stage, but they're just a real pain when they're not on stage, and that because of that, even though no matter how good they are on stage, that the cruise lines or the cruise directors or you as an agent just say, you know what, this person's just too high maintenance, or they're always getting drunk, or they're always causing problems, or they're always missing flights, or they're on the phone all the time whinging and causing problems. Does this happen, or are acts generally well behaved?
Well, basically our acts are quite well behaved, because if we do have problems, then we stop representing them, because it's just not worth the aggravation. But you're totally right, yes. I mean, part of it, the performance is just part of it. You've obviously got to get the ratings, the guests have got to like you, you've got to rate high. But if you are a pain around the ship, and drinking too much alcohol and just being too high maintenance about the cabin, then eventually they will stop using you, because it is a buyer's market for them. No matter how good you are, these days they are calling the shots. One
thing that surprised me is that a relatively small incident could happen on a ship. I've seen it firsthand where an act might, they might get a bit tipsy or something, they might get a bit loud, or there's something, a small thing, might happen. And this gets reported to somebody high up on the ship, which gets put in a report somewhere, which gets sent to Miami or sent to the head office, and then gets put in a report and sent to you. People hear about these things, don't they? You can't keep these things a secret.
Yeah, a lot of them probably are exaggerated, but yes, this is the problem. Because I worked on ships, for many years, I can see it from every side, and I understand it from the artist's point of view as well. You do get some difficult officer or difficult restaurant manager who are quite jealous about entertainers. They only work 2 hours a week or whatever, or a musician only works 3 hours a day, and they're in the restaurant 16 hours a day, 15, 16 hours a day. So I think things can get blown out of proportion. I just think you've got to be very humble on board,
Respectful.
Just respectful. It's not a bad way to earn a living, I always tell new artists that, you're getting paid for the travel. Because the money generally compared to what people earn on land is very good, I think, in comparison. I'm not saying every job, but it is it's quite up there. But what the pain is all the travelling, and especially these days with the restrictions on luggage and the cost
the pain, the difficulty.
The pain, the problem is because it's all put into a computer, just because the cruise lines don't have time to micromanage these flights, and the cheapest flight comes out. So you will be, you could be flying at 5 or 6 in the morning, which I know what the flight is terrible. You've got to be at the airport for 4. That means you don't sleep the night before. You do all this travelling, and then sometimes, depending on the schedule, you may be performing that night when you board.
I saw it once. I was in a ship in Australia, and an artist had travelled over 30 hours to get there, and he got on the ship, and he looked at his paperwork, and he was performing that night. He was completely exhausted. He couldn't get out of it. He actually broke down in tears. I saw this because it was just too much for him. But, he pulled himself together and did it. He didn't have to work for another 4 or 5 days or something. But I always say the same to people, that the easy part of the job is actually just doing the gig on stage. The hard bit is the travelling. I don't complain, because I think it's overall, I feel very lucky to be, getting the work and to be doing it. But that's the hard work, is messing around, worrying about you losing your bags, and schlepping around all over the place, and sometimes you end up out of pocket over small things where you shouldn't really be out of pocket. But I think you just have to swallow it and get on with it and take a view on it, and totally right. and try and be as fresh as you can whenever they want you to perform.
Yeah, you're totally right, 100% spot on. It's probably not as bad as it used to be, really, with travel, because I used to get calls at 3, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning from people, port agent hasn't turned up, or taxi hasn't turned up. But these days, all the cruise lines do offer an emergency number.
And they do work, actually, these days.
They do work, and also we always try to let our artists know the port agent's number, so if there is a problem, there's somebody on the ground there that can deal with it. But yeah, I mean, that's the toughest part, the travel. We had a very well-known television act on a ship last week whose both suitcases went missing. No clothes, no stage wear for 2 weeks.
And I know in some contracts, I don't know if it's the same with all lines, but for some cruise lines, if you lose your bags and you can't perform, like all your music's gone, your instruments have gone, and there's no way of performing, they're not going to pay you.
No, that's right. So that's why they always say take your music on with you as hand luggage, so at least you can perform. And if your clothes do go missing, they will always find you some on the ship. However, a very famous soprano who's fabulous, who worked for us, she's so small and such a fantastic figure that nothing fitted her. So, but anyway, but that's another story.
She got paid.
She got paid. Yeah. I think that she actually went on. Just dresses were a little bit too big. But yeah, that is the bug of my life. The travel and the early flights.
But you ideally want an act, if there are problems, to phone up the number that's on the paperwork, because you don't want to be getting 100 calls from acts all over the place or all over the world at all hours saying, oh, the agent hasn't turned up, or that this hotel's terrible that they're expecting me to stay in for the night, or this flight's been delayed and what am I to do? Yeah,
that's right. I mean, my cell goes up at 2 a.m. every morning, and it's on again at about 10 a.m.
You switch it off, you mean?
Yeah,
you switch it off at 2?
Yes, I switch it off at 2. But these days, it's not as bad. I mean, it's not as bad because now the cruise liners seem to have this under control. It's very rare that we have a problem with port agent. Some of the cruise lines have decided actually it's cheaper for the artists to, when they get there, to get a taxi. And then we can claim the expense back, rather than, have a bill from a port agent of $400 or $500 where a taxi would only cost $40, which makes sense.
Can you make any predictions? What's your feelings for the future of the cruise industry as far as entertainment is concerned? And will they be using more or less entertainment? And which kind of entertainers do you think will be in demand?
Well, I still think it's still a growing business. I think it's still, going to boom in 2 or 3 years' time when we get out of this recession. So I think they'll always need entertainment, of some kind of another. Instrumentalists, variety, magic, comedy.
Anything but singing.
It's still, yeah. There is still work for singers, but it's still not as good. It is certainly a buyer's market for them. You've really got to come up with the...
So what's really in demand are these other things?
Yeah, we're finding this.
Instrumentalists,
jugglers, comedy jugglers, even groups, groups of people like a Rat Pack or
a Jersey Boys tribute to that.
Jersey Boys tribute, or a Beatles...
Which is like a sort of a contained show coming on the ship.
Coming on. That can just come on, do 1 or 2 shows and then off 3 or 4 days. And of course, it's, the majority, especially of the American lines now, where before you used to be on for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, that rarely happens these days. They'll get you on for 5 or 6 days, and they'll bring you on at the end of one cruise, so you'll do your show for that set of passengers, and then the new set of passengers will be on 2 or 3 days, so then you can do the show all over again. So they've really looked at this, and it seems to be working.
So the future looks good.
I think the future looks very good. Yes, we're employing more guest entertainers. We have around about 55 guest entertainers, 55 maybe 60, working for us at the moment. We have over 300 musicians on cruise ships at any one time, and we're still growing.
So in summary, for people listening to this that are just putting their act together for the first time, or they've got an act and they're trying to get representation, they need to send you their EPK, which needs to be brief and to the point, have a great video is important, with their set list, their biography, what they've done, and some photographs. And you promise that you would look at that. You'll get round to all of them, will you?
Oh, certainly, yeah. And then
do you get back to everybody if you don't like it?
Yeah, sometimes I do. We have an email response that says we've received their package or their email, and we're going to look, and we'll be in contact with them after we've reviewed it. It is difficult, because we just get so many through. But I do open every email, and as soon as something jumps out at me, if I like it, I'll be on straight away to it.
And it's a matter, so it needs to have a very quick impact.
It does.
Because how long are you going to watch a video for? If they get so far as that you click on the link, how long are you going to watch that for?
I'm going to watch it for about the first 10 seconds, and if I think it's terrible and nothing we could do, then I'd just move on. Yeah.
So, but if the act's good and they've got something interesting, they've got some unique sales points, the versatile, or they speak some foreign languages, or the kind of act that you're looking for, like a magician, a comedy juggler, or something,
yes.
or a singer that's unique in some way or another, then you will look at it and
certainly.
You will get.
And then the next step is, after I've seen it and spoke to them on the telephone, then I would like them to meet them face to face. That's very important. I had somebody come over to see me last week, a violinist, and she was terrific. And I just felt as though I can always tell as well when I meet people, because you've got to have a certain personality as well for ships, because you've just got to be, you've got to be quite easygoing, and just fit in with that environment, with rules, regulations. That's a big thing on ships as well. It's not, even though some of these most of the guest centers are on passenger or guest status, the passenger comes first, so you've still got to, watch everything you do on board,
So, and after that, once you've met them and you like them, then you put it to the cruise lines?
Put it to the cruise line, and
you try and sell it?
I try and sell it and be very enthusiastic about it, and then that's it. And then once you're in, providing you come up with the ratings and you don't cause any problems on board.
It does seem to be that an act, people really struggle and they're going for trying to get representation or trying to get, more work. But then you hear of other acts that they go on, they do a fantastic job, and the lines are on the phone the next day saying, what's their availability? We want to give them loads of work. Does that really happen like that?
Yes, it does. It certainly does. So if, another violinist we had working for us, it took a lot of doing getting him on the American lines. He was from Eastern Europe. It was still a lot of selling on your point of view? It was a lot of selling. I tried for a year or so to try and get this individual on.
Just to convince the lines to book him?
Just to convince the lines, They thought it was a little bit cheesy, the accent was strong, but I'd seen this act myself firsthand on a cruise line, and he was just amazing. He went on, and he got booked up within for the full year, and now he's
from the base. So he went on for the first time with these American lines, and then they loved it. And the next thing
is there's a transship of 4.5 months, and then
that means going from ship to ship.
Yeah, he's out 4.5 months, ship to ship. It's all worked out, and he's booked up right through till next year, which is fantastic. I mean, we're only in July now, so he's booked up for the next 18 months, which is great. So there is still the work there for the right people, and
that's also, from his point of view, that's great that he had an agent like you that believed in him. Yes. Because some agents would have thought, it's not worth a year's worth of effort trying to sell this.
Oh no, it's been more than a year. It's been like 3 years in the making, because when we first put him on a line, he had to make his own way to the UK on a bus. All the way from.
So
Poland.
He put in the work as well, and made some sacrifices, and took a long-term view.
Took a long-term view, and it's all paid off.
It's gratifying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the same with 2 or 3 magicians, comedy magicians that I've just recently introduced to the cruise market. We've been trying for 10 months. Just for the right opening. Some of the cruise lines were a little bit nervous because maybe they'd be a little bit risky in the dress, but eventually it's come off, and it's great. It's a great feeling. I get so excited when that happens. It's not about the money with me. It's just excitement that we've actually opened the door and they're going to be working. Yeah, I get lots of joy out of offering these acts dates.
By the sound of it, you're going to have a lot more people sending you emails now looking for work.
Well, yeah.
At least they know what they should be sending you, and
exactly,
at least they know the kind of acts that you're looking for that are going to do well.
Yeah, totally. And there's still, there is still a lot of work now. There's a lot of cruise lines out there. There's a lot of cruise ships, There's a lot of corporate work. There's a lot of hotels we have in London. So, they have the best of the both worlds.
Is there any final bits of advice, a few words of advice for people starting for the first time in this business, and particularly as far as cruise ships are concerned?
Just be organised, be organised and, get the arrangements done properly, keep them very nice and tidy.
You talk about musical arrangements.
Musical arrangements, they need to be thought through, and just, invest in the show, invest in stage wear, invest in clothes where you're going to be walking around the ship. That's just as important when you're off stage, to be looking smart, not in jeans, nice. You just look nice, You're on show all the time. And
be organised, you were saying, like in paperwork or emails, responding to things?
Responding to emails. I have another very, very good actor who's very well known, who never gets back to you. So, we get frustrated, the cruise line gets frustrated, and, sooner or later they'll stop offering, because, by the time he's got back to you, the slot's gone. Another problem we have as well with the availability, some of the cruise lines, the American lines, are very, very good at looking at the available dates. They're all busy, so we send the avail list, or they go into our web link, see such and such is available, and they send an email, and then we get onto the artist. Oh, I'm sorry, that's my uncle's 60th birthday party, or I'm sorry, that's my best friend's wedding. And that causes a lot of frustration, because then we go back to the cruise line company and say, oh, I'm sorry, they're not available.
So these are the kind of reasons why good acts might not be booked, and at the same time, conversely, why people that aren't actually that great on stage are getting work, because they don't mess up their availabilities,
exactly.
They're well behaved, they're organised, and then sometimes, I see people on stage and I think, well, they're all right, but I know there's a lot better people, but actually the better people might be a real pain and disorganised and changing things.
Totally, totally, and sometimes it is what it is with these cruise lines. Like I said, at the moment, whether this will change, I don't know. At the moment, it's a buyer's market for all the lines. They are calling the shots, because they have a lot of choice, and also they've had their budget squeezed as well, so they just after good value.
And like you say, it's not as if you need someone to be available 52 weeks a year for you, but if they say, okay, well, I'm going to be doing pantomime this month, and I've got this other thing that I always do in the spring, but I've got, 7 months here, or I've got 3 months here, which will definitely be available for cruising, and fill them up if you can.
Oh, totally, yeah. That's exactly, yeah. I've also just recently been speaking to a band who, came back to me and said, "Oh yeah, we'd love to work over Christmas, but we need to bring every band member needs to bring the kids." And there was 14 kids, I included 14 kids. So yeah, I received this long email about we'd need 7 cabins, and an extra cabin for. I mean, it's just not going to happen,
because cabins mean money.
Cabin needs money, and it's just too much aggravation to administrate this. It's just, it's far easier for us to put a band on where there's going to be, no strings attached. Even though this band are great, the cruise line, they're just not going to go with it, when they can have another similar band, without all the conditions of children. So I understand as well from the bands, they don't want to be away at Christmas, without, they don't want to be away from the kids. So I understand it from both sides. It's just because I understand the business so well, I just know that it's not going to happen, In fact, I said to my assistant the other day, who put this forward to a cruise line, I said, you have more chance of winning the lottery than getting this approved, and I was right.
Gary, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for all that advice. I know there's a lot there that our listeners will find very useful. And if you're listening to this and you've got some questions or need some advice, as usual, just go to the website, cabaretsecrets.com, leave a comment, and I promise to get back to you with any help that I can. Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.